Hello there. Welcome into another episode of the Fat Guy Podcast. Thanks so much for checking us out today. I am the Fat Guy. Most people just call me Brett, and I am glad that you have decided to listen. If you've subscribed to the podcast, that's just awesome. And anything you can do to help spread the word would be great too. My goal in life is to spread the truth about how to lose weight to as many people as possible before I kick the bucket and sail on out of this existence. So you can help me with that by sharing. If anything I have ever done or said helps you, please share the podcast. A quick disclaimer before we talk about probably one of the most questions I get asked is why is my weight loss stalled and what can I do to fix it? So if you have stalled weight loss and you don't know why you've stalled and you don't know how to fix it, this will be the podcast for you. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a trained medical professional. I have no formal medical training. I'm just a guy that's done a ton of research on health. Weight loss in particular, but many areas, aspects of health, ranging from cancer to weight loss to metabolic syndrome and all these things. But again, just a regular guy transforming my world. A guy that's lost 125 pounds, primarily using a ketogenic diet. And anything I share here is strictly my opinion and my personal experiences. Nothing I say is intended to be medical advice for you or specific weight loss advice for you. Everything I'm sharing is my personal experiences only and my personal opinions only. You should always consult with a medical professional before you begin any kind of a weight loss or dietary change. So we're on all the social medias. Fat Guy Podcast is the username. Check us out on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Fat Guy Podcast. Hit us up. I'd love to have you on there. It's the easiest way to contact me if you have questions, etc., etc. So I've been attempting to lose weight for 5 years, a little more than 5 years now. And I've learned a ton, learned so much, tried many different things, finally figured out what causes obesity, and that's just happened within the last 2 years. And once I figured that out, it was just eye-opening. And so, you know, if you've ever been in a situation where you tried to fix something but you didn't know what was wrong with it, like I know if you ever had your car stop running, you couldn't get it to start, or you had an issue with your sink, or, you know, just any of these menial tasks that you figure you probably might could fix it yourself. You don't think it's that serious, but you don't know how to fix it. Like, you don't have the knowledge. And that's what I find most people, including myself for many years, that's the situation you find yourself when you're trying to lose weight. Like, you don't know how to lose weight. You don't know what causes it, and you don't know how to fix it. But you keep trying things because people keep telling you to do things. And once I learned that metabolic syndrome, insulin resistance, was the real reason that people get obese, and once I learned the answer was to get insulin as low as possible for as long as possible, it was life-changing. It put so much power back into my hands. One of the things that still continues to happen, though, whether you are trying to achieve this, now there's many different ways to achieve insulin as low as possible for as long as possible. The most popular out there right now, and probably the most easy to adapt to, is probably the most easy is intermittent fasting. So where you fast for 16 hours and then you eat in an 8-hour window. That can be somewhat effective, but it's not super effective. Like, you're not going to lose tons of weight, but you will slowly see your weight start to lower. And it's a good introduction into, you know, not having your insulin high all the time. So that's probably the easiest. But secondary to that, an actual lifestyle change would be the ketogenic diet. And that's what I do mostly. And it's what, you know, the people I've worked with have done. And then in addition to that, you can actually add other forms of fasting. And the most powerful combo is when you add them together. Ketogenic diet along with some form of intermittent fasting or even periods of extended fasting. But invariably, weight loss will stall. And so over my 5-year, very intense study and personal experiences, this is what I found to be the 2 reasons that weight loss stalls. The first reason that weight loss stalls is that you have altered your diet enough. Because no matter if you go ketogenic or what, and so ketogenic works on the inside and it works on how things work, but you still can't eat at a dietary surplus. You still can't eat too much food. The beautiful thing about a ketogenic diet is that you just kind of naturally lower your eating. But that's different for different people. A ketogenic diet may have an effect on one person to where they just kind of naturally lower their calories 200 a day. For another person, it may be 400. For another person, it may be 5 or 6. So what will happen is, even if you track and you try to hit a target goal of calories, let's say your goal is to hit you're a man and your goal is to hit 1,800 calories a day, and you're losing weight and it's working great, and then you stall. Well, most of the time, I don't know if most of the time, maybe it's 50-50, I don't know the exact breakdown. But one of the reasons that happens is that your weight loss has now hit the caloric level that you've been at. In other words, 1,800 calories a day that you've been eating was a caloric deficit, but now that you've lost 30 pounds or 35 or 40 pounds or whatever, you have now hit to where 1,800 calories is maintenance calories. It is no longer a deficit. And so you're just going to maintain. And so it's not a stall. People make it out like it's like something that should have kept going has now stalled. Like your car was driving down the road and then suddenly it stalled for no reason when it still should be going down the road. And so in that sense, it's not a stall. It's just you've just reached the floor of your calorie reduction. And so the answer to that, quite simply, is you got to bump your calories down some. You have reached the floor where you load your calories to. And so there's a couple ways you can accomplish that. If you're not really obese, if you're 50, if you still got 15, 20, 25, maybe 30, maybe 35-ish pounds to lose, you can get into some, reasonably intense exercise, which will knock off a few extra calories every day, and then bump your, calories down in under 100 to 200 a day. Maybe bring them down to 1,600 and see what happens. You don't want to lower them too low because you don't want to get down to your metabolism slowing too much. So I don't know if it's most people, and I don't know if it's half and half, but for a lot of people, that's the answer. It's just, and generally it's probably wouldn't even be as low as 18. Generally it's somebody that was, they were eating 3,500 calories a day, and a ketogenic diet has brought them down to where they're eating 2,500 calories a day, but that's still way too many calories. They need to be in the 2,000 range or 1,900 range or something. So their weight loss has dropped to that 2,500 level. They dropped from 35 to 25, which got them a lot of weight loss. But now they've hit a floor, and they're in maintenance at 2,500. So you got to go lower. So I find if you're on the lower end of the calorie spectrum, maybe you really have lowered your calorie intake quite a bit. That the second reason is that your metabolism really has slowed. So when you eat less, your metabolism will slow. Now, it's generally not enough to matter too much. You modify your eating over a super long period of time where you're at a really low calorie level and or a moderately low. I don't want to say really low because a lot of people do really low. I don't mean that, but I mean where it's low. And your metabolism is going to continue to slow down. And eventually, your metabolism will slow itself down enough that it catches up to the calorie level you're eating. And once again, you find yourself at maintenance. So if that's what's happened to you, the answer is, again, it's really quite simple. You just have to get your metabolism back up. And the way you do that is with what's called fasting and feasting. So not necessarily fasting. That's just what it's called. Well, there is actually a form of doing this where you do fast and you do feast. But that's not what I'm going to advise you to, what I would advise you to do in this situation, or not what I've done. Basically, what you'll want to do is couple of days a week, you're going to want to ramp up your eating. So let's say you're let's say you're a woman at 1,500 calories a day, okay? And you've been losing weight and now it's stalled. Well, why don't you take when Friday and Saturday comes around and you bump that calories up to like 2,200. Still stay keto, still eat the right kinds of food, kick those calories up to like 2,200 on Friday and like 2,200, 2,300, something like that on Saturday. Then starting back on Sunday, you want to come back down to your lower level. Well, that's going to tell your body that food's back in supply. You're going to overload it with the energy. It's not going to feel like it needs to stay ramped down. And so we're going to do this for a few weeks and see what happens. A more extreme version of that is where you do 2 and 2. So you may go up to like, using that same example, a woman at around 1,500 calories a day or whatever. You may bump it up to 2,000, 2,200 for 2 days in a row, and then drop it down to like 15 2 days, then back up to 20 or 2,200, then back down. Do that off and on until your metabolism gets built back up. So that could be several weeks, be 2 weeks, 3 weeks, something like that. Once your metabolism gets ramped back up, then you're going to go back into that calorie deficit again. So those are the two reasons. The only other reasons are really stupid reasons that there's no reason to address, and that's that you really haven't, you never really did change your lifestyle all that much. And so you might have lost a few pounds, but, you didn't really make any changes. You're just still eating tons of food. And I think you would probably know that, so there's no need to tell you that. Nevertheless, those are the two main reasons for weight loss stalls, and those are the two ways to fix them. Your last question may be, how do I know which one? Well, it's hard to know exactly, but I think if you're somebody who's going on the extreme low end of calorie reduction, let's say approximately what you were eating and you cut it back drastically 1,000 calories a day or something. That's pretty extreme. Like the most a man would want to reduce his calories from what he was eating to what he's eating now is maybe 500 a day. And for a woman, somewhere in that range, 400 to 500. And your metabolism will reasonably keep up with that for a while. Now, if you just did some drastic cutting and you're one of those people who's eating 3,000 calories a day and you cut it back to 15, well, your metabolism after a little while is going to drop like a rock. So that's not to say that you can't drop from 3,000 to 15, because 1,500 calories is a reasonable amount of calories for pretty much anybody. But just know that your metabolism is going to suffer. There isn't anything wrong with that. That's not a deformity. That's not something going wrong. That's just normal. That's just natural. That just naturally happens. So we just need to kick it back up. And then, of course, the other example is that you didn't lower your calories too much, and your weight loss is caught up to the amount of calories you're eating, and you just need to simply, lower your calories down some more. I think you can probably look at the number you're at and kind of gauge which one of those may be most likely your problem. And even if you're wrong, though, you try one of those approaches and it doesn't work, then try the other one. So I hope this podcast has helped you in some way. My one goal in life is to help as many people as possible gain control of their health. And so one of the ways I can do that is by you sharing this. So if you saw it on Facebook, hit the share button. And if you didn't, even if you're listening in your Apple app or your Android app or whatever, there's still a share button on there. Please hit share it on Facebook or Twitter. You never know whose life you'll change. Let's change as many lives as we can together. This is how I found the ketogenic way of eating. It's because somebody shared something on Facebook. It's just that simple. It's life-changing. If you can take time to gripe about politics on Facebook, or gripe about your neighbors, or gripe about your school, or gripe about your landscapers, and I've griped about all these things, I'm as guilty as the next, then you can take 5 seconds and share something that might actually have a positive impact on somebody's life. So do that for me, and then follow us on social media, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. The username is Fat Guy Podcast for all of those. And if you don't understand how to get a podcast from Apple Podcasts or how to get it from the Google Play Store or anything like that, and that's all Greek to you, and you just saw this on somebody's Facebook and you click the link and hit the play button, well, you can subscribe and you can go back and listen to all the older ones that I've done. You can get caught up on everything. Look at the subject matter and pick ones that apply to you that you may have a question about, because I've tried to cover all questions as they come up. And so downloading the Spreaker app will facilitate that really easily for you. It's a free app, Spreaker. Download it. Once you download it, search for Fat Guy Podcast. Hit the heart button, follow it, subscribe to it, and you'll get notified of new episodes, but you'll also be able to scroll back and see all the previous episodes and check them out. Thanks so much for listening today. I hope you have a great day. Keto on. Take control of your health. You can do it.